I'm going live with Sue.
Okay, I need to get those together.
Yeah. Robin just woke up. I'm going live with Sue.
Okay.
It looks like we're live. They've changed some things, so are we live?
Let's see if I still got that echo, echo, echo. Nope. It's still
No?
good.
Well, wait a minute. And of course, I can't see on my phone. They're doing. We are live. They're doing this more and more to us. Have you noticed?
Oh yeah, and they're pushing the George narrative more.
Yeah.
They're actually paying to advertise George magazine on Facebook and things. They're spreading more lies, trying to get the more we get out, the more
Yeah.
story that we get out about the truth. They keep
Yeah.
trying to push those lies, but we are going to expose all their lies and expose them for the cabal that they really are.
Right. I've noticed that on Facebook. They do preemptive, like we're gonna call it propaganda. Okay. So they'll take a celebrity or a thing and they'll just put all these like beautiful little butterfly and fairy stories around them, how they donate, how they do this or that. And I smile to myself because I know it's coming for them or they're already handled. So it's quite funny. But I have seen an increase in George propaganda out there.
Oh yeah.
And of course, they have algorithms when you go on social media and like I click on something you put out there, then they immediately it multiplies into five things about John or whatever, videos or pieces of propaganda
Yeah,
about
where
what
do
a
these
great he
people
was.
get this crap? It's like, man.
Yep, yep.
But
So
we
anyway,
got some good, smart, intelligent people on our side sharing
yeah,
the story.
yeah,
And they're all going to look like idiots when it's all exposed.
yeah. And we have tried contacting who we thought were the good guys, let's say. And they don't want to touch it for multiple reasons. Like they don't want to make a mistake and promote someone that's not who they say they are. Okay, so they don't have that discernment. They also don't want to go against the popular
The
narrative.
cabal, yeah,
Yeah, because
it's
look
huge.
at that'll ruin their ratings and their income or whatever,
Yeah.
right?
And just the fact that this is the biggest story of the century and them being
Yeah,
quiet exposes them for who they really are.
exactly.
They're not a patriot. They're not for the truth and justice system at all, or they would be demanding and screaming justice for John Kennedy Jr. and all the murders that I'm exposing of my loved ones and the
Right.
takeover and the theft of billions and billions of dollars. And it needs to be exposed. People need to wake up that hey, they're pieces of shit. They are. They're the worst of the worst.
Right.
And I keep thinking of me being kidnapped and tortured, thrown in a cage, the crude, rude sex acts so they could take pictures, so the cabal could say, "Hey, look what the fuck we're doing to the son of our former president. We're fucking him and it needs to be exposed. These people need to be exposed. They put it
Right.
right out there for the whole world to see, and they're arrogant. They are extremely arrogant. And with that said, somebody the other day said, I really got to quit bashing Trump. I really don't give a shit. I'm for the truth, getting it out there. I've been trained to be a soldier, and I'm not one of those guys that will give an award to last place in a competition of any kind. I'm not that way. And with that said, if people can't see how arrogant Donald Trump is, it's sad. It really is. But he is right at the top of the ball, just like all the others, and he needs to be exposed just like all the others. Um, this wonderful gal said she saw this in a store. It's actually a crystal,
Oh,
and it's in the shape
wow.
of a heart. And I just been
Beautiful.
sitting here holding it, but she saw that. She said, "When I saw that heart, I thought of you and what you're trying to do." And she sent it to me, and it's awesome. It really is
Beautiful.
awesome,
Yeah.
and it's full of energy. I'm just sitting here playing with it.
Yeah, yeah. I love those pieces like that. You can sit with it and it's just like, it's part of you after a while. You have that
Yeah,
energy with it. Yeah.
it's nice.
Yeah. So awesome. Awesome. So for those that are new, we're talking about John's book, Stolen Identity, okay, that he wrote. It's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And then Mary Maxwell and John wrote a book, The Historian's Tale, okay. And then we have a beautiful documentary, The Quiet Journey
Yeah,
TV.
that is a must see for everybody.
Beautiful.
When I hear haters and disbelievers, go to the quiet journey and hear some
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah.
Quit believing the bullshit. There is so much bullshit out there. The United States of America has been overthrown by the cabal, by these evil satanic cult members of power and money, and it's huge. But they don't give a shit about us little guys. They're going to keep molesting children. They're going to keep their kidnapping, their extortion. They're going to keep getting rich, and they're going to keep making us poor. They run and they say, "Hey, we're going to help the veterans. We're going to help the children. We're going to do this and that," and it's all bullshit. It's all talk. It's all shit to make them look good in the public eye, and they ain't doing a damn thing.
Right.
You can see it when you go to the store and all the homeless walking around up and down. It's so big. Me and Robin were coming home from dinner the other night, and all the homeless. It was crazy. One guy was in a pink nightgown, I guess, or something, pushing a shopping cart, and then there was a woman right behind him pushing a shopping cart, and it's like, you see so much. You see the veterans, um, and the drug flow, all the cause and the inflation, the price of rent nowadays, you know, it's great. Nothing's being done. Nothing's being done, and it could
Right.
be done. It
Right.
really could.
Yeah. The
So
people.
let's get rid of these cabal members, all of them, and let's put some good people in there that ain't worried about millions of dollars in the bank, $1 million salary. It's disgusting. These politicians, they're all freaking millionaires. They're all cabal. And we're living in poverty while we're letting them rule over us. It is a regime. It is a regime.
That's true. Yeah.
It really is. The media has been overthrown. And that's one of the first things a regime will do. And then, they put their commanders in place so they can silently and secretly tell them what to do and how to run us and rule over us. It's
Yeah.
it's sad, but it's true.
It's
And we got to
frustrating.
stand up. We got to stand up and do
We're
something.
seeing how the economics affects everyone, but every system is corrupted. The medical system, the educational system, financial system, the food system, everything is corrupted. And we could talk about each one of them ad nauseum. I mean, there's so much to talk about. How they come across, to weaponize food, medicine, this or that against us. Even what they're teaching the children, right? They're not teaching them facts and figures and what really happened. They're teaching them propaganda and what they want them to know, enough for them to get a job, just to do their little pieces in society. There's no expansion of consciousness whatsoever, If I
Yeah,
just,
the television is a good tool they use too.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, if you notice the commercials, they're making billions of dollars on their pharmaceuticals, and they're making commercials of people dancing around, acting like they're just so happy they got this new drug and it's killing people.
yeah,
So, and it's not just one, it's everything.
yeah,
And then you see a commercial where they're advertising a prosthetic. It's like, how many people out of the millions of people actually need one of those prosthetics? It's crazy what they do. And so you got all these pill pushers on commercials, and then you have insurance. Oh, you need to pay us because you're not smart enough to put money in the bank for when your car breaks down, or you need to put money in the bank so when you die, we'll pay your funeral bills
yeah,
because you're not smart enough to do it yourself.
yeah, exactly.
And that's the whole thing about the insurance scam. If you don't have the money, and besides that, when you're dead, who really gives a shit? Let the city pay pay your funeral
It's
bills.
funny. It's funny.
But yeah, it's all about to make us look like we're dummies. You're not smart enough to put money in the bank yourself. What's going to happen when you die, or what happens when your car
Yeah.
breaks down. Yeah, it's all commercials on, and
Yeah.
then the junk commercials. Instead of getting a sponge and some hard scrubbing and soap, they want to sell you little brushes and things that make your life easy. And you buy them, they get them from China, and you throw them in the trash because they break the first day you get them. But it's all like trying to make life easy for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
You see all the barbecue grill cleaners and all the tile grout cleaners. And, oh, it's only 3 payments of $39.95.
Right. Yeah.
It's like get a sponge and some soap and take 5 minutes and clean it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, everything's for convenience anymore. People are busy. They don't want to do the basics, the foundational things anymore, right? And
Yeah.
so people take advantage of that economically. I was just thinking of Social Security as you were talking, though. Like, okay, for those that are in the US, when we work a job, part of our money is taken away to be held for us for our retirement ages. And of course, they get to pick the ages and the eligibility and how much you're going to get and all these little factors. Okay. That is our money that they're taking out of our paychecks. And they're graciously giving it to us when we qualify. Yeah,
Going back to
exactly.
Hollywood and the TV, I was watching one Adam 12, not one Adam 12, Emergency. I was on so many shows when I was young,
Yeah.
and I was under MK Ultra. I was told my lines. I would get on there and do my lines. They even told me this is your new mother many times. This is your
Yeah.
new father. They were scrambling my brain. But I saw on Emergency, um, basically their fire department. They go in and they save people, and that's the show. Well, there was a little girl stuck in the water in a pool, and I'm trying to figure out the storyline there. But then I looked at that little girl, and I was like, I knew that little girl. We were friends, and I couldn't remember. And then I was like, did they kill her? Is she still alive? Did they make her a Hollywood star? I just don't know. But I was really concerned about that little girl because I know she was under MK Ultra. I know she had suffered like I had suffered because they'll do that. They'll torture you. They'll use you and make you do things you don't want to do, like they did to me when I was in Hollywood. It's really big. It's huge what they do to the kids. And they'll put them under MK Ultra and put them on a show like Emergency, One Out of 12, Green Acres, on and on and on. The Hollywood uh, child trafficking crime ring and
Right.
the torture they do to build up armies within the cult and the cabal. And we really need some serious investigations into all that, what they're doing. We
Right.
really, really do.
Right.
But my story needs to come out and get public and get big and say, look what these people did to John Kennedy Jr. They murdered his family. They used him over and over again. They tortured him over and over again. And the money trail and all that is so big with these people. They love the power of what they can do, and then they put it right in your face
Right.
on a TV program.
Sure. Yeah. Think of all these Disney Channel stars from say, I'm going to just say 20 years ago, okay? They're young, like 8, 10, 12. They're on these shows. They become famous, but what goes on behind the scenes? And that's starting to trickle out to the public. So we're finding out that
Yeah.
these kids were abused and all sorts of stuff, nasty stuff, and that's the Disney Channel. Okay, what about
Yeah,
the
I even think I was on the
right?
Mickey Mouse Club, if you remember that.
Yep,
I believe I sat in. I remember all the kids were wearing the little ears
yep.
and the mouse ears. But I believe, if anybody wants to do some research, little John Kennedy might have been on one of the episodes of the Mouseketeer Club.
Yeah,
That's just a memory that I have. But they're huge at what they do.
Yeah,
They are. It goes from Disney. It goes everywhere. The
yeah,
cabal are everywhere.
yeah.
They really are.
So you see what's
And
happened to several of these kids though is they've gone berserk. You know what I mean? They get done with their show and then they just lose their minds for a while, you know.
yeah.
Very
Well,
sad.
MK Ultra does that to you too.
Yeah,
It'll make spin your head,
yeah,
especially when you start remembering the things they don't want you to remember, and you start using the side of your brain, the MK Ultra side that's been asleep. It's crazy. It's
yeah.
huge. Um, I was trying to remember that Mouseketeer's name,
Annette Funicello.
Annette Bonicello. There
Yeah,
you go.
yeah.
Whatever happened to her?
Well, I don't know if she's still alive, but about say 20 years ago, she was on a show called Coach. And it was like a sitcom, but it was really popular. And she started coming back into acting, and I don't know what happened since then. Yeah.
I even saw a show the other day. I think it's called McCormick and Son. But anyway, I was in the movie with Doris Day and Brian Keith, and they told me Doris Day was my mother, Brian Keith was my father. That was a scenario that was put into my head under MK Ultra. So when
Yeah.
we did the movie, I was like, "Hey, mom, it's all good." And great acting when you're under MK Ultra and been programmed what to say and how to
Yeah.
say it. But I just seen a show he was on, and he was older, but he was a judge. They made him a judge. And I was like, I remember that show from a long time back. And I turned the channel. I didn't even want to watch it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it
So
must be.
yeah, they use these Hollywood actors that
Yeah.
are in the cahoots, all
Yeah.
the way up to their, look at Andy Griffith and and you know, Perry Mason and all these guys that keep acting until they're gone.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
use them and use them and use them.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Well, let's do some questions. I still got some questions left from last week, and I'm sure there's going to be more questions in the chat. So why don't
Oh,
we do a few Q&As if that's okay?
yeah, not a problem. And
Great.
we did a question, I believe it was last time, and somebody said, yeah, I mentioned two Purple Hearts. What was the third one? And it was like I had been in so many crashes, helicopter crashes, and injured on the battlefield and every other thing as a child. I really don't remember. They should owe me 5 or 6 as far as that goes, but I'll never see them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to answer what was the third one, I really don't know what they would have given me the third one for, whether it was this or that. But I had been hospitalized more than once, and even put in, being in a trained for the Navy SEALs. Um, Put in one of, I came up too fast. I was in a diving suit and I was down there. This guy pulled a knife on me, and I was like, "Oh fuck, he's gonna kill me." But it was probably just a scenario. I don't know. But anyway, I wasn't armed with anything, and this guy's coming after me under the water with a knife. So I took off up top real too fast. And when I did that, I got up and they put me in one of those chambers. It's like a big freaking metal tank that's pressurized. And being in there, you go freaking nuts. You really do. And I'd been in there more than once. It was almost like torture for me because you're in there. It's freaking hot. They don't have no air conditioner, so you're sweating, and you're already sick from coming up too fast. And you hear a ping, ping, and it just drives you freaking crazy because you can't get out. You can't do anything. You're like, am I going to die in here or not? But they did that to me a couple times.
How long were you in those decompression chambers?
Oh, I don't know the exact hours, but it was like hours, days. I mean, I'd
Really?
just be there. Yeah, it was a long time to decompression, whatever, however it works. It was
Oh,
miserable. It was torture.
okay. I don't know anything about it other than they have them, you know.
Yeah. Another
Interesting.
thing Wayne used to do too is we'd go to a funeral. I think I might have told you this once, but where they cremate the bodies, they pull a big metal thing out, and then you lie on it, and then they push it back in, and then the flames go. Gwen used to put me on there and push me in and lock me in. So I'd be waiting for the flames while I was still alive. Things like that. That's pure torture.
That is pretty nasty.
So you're sitting in a cremator, and you're like, is he gonna turn on the fucking gas? And then an hour later he pulls you out.
Yeah.
But is it training? Is it torture? I really don't know. But I can tell you, I lived through it. I
Yeah.
went through it. And when you're in there, you're praying to God. I did a lot of praying to God. I really did. Being in that dog cage, I'll never forget that because I had just had my ass whooped. My face was swelling up. Um, yeah, they gave me orders to do this, do that. They ordered me to take some pills. And I was like sitting in there going out of the darkness into the light. God, don't let them kill me. I just, it's a terrible scenario. But you pray to God, you think it's coming. But I've had to live with that, when I was young. It's coming over and over and over again.
Well, they say there's no atheists in foxholes, right? Because it's a natural reflex to preserve your life. But I was just thinking, did your parents teach you about God? Like, I know you were only 3 before your dad died, but is that where you learned about God, or where did you learn about God and that there's a higher power?
I didn't know my father well enough about God, and
Yeah.
I don't remember Jackie talking too much about God. I think my father, if I remember right, had a little Bible that he had when he was in the service.
Yeah.
Um, that they kind of respected that. I don't know what happened to it or anything, but um, my mom Jackie gave me a compass one day for my birthday, and she was like, "This is so you never forget, and you can always find your way."
Yeah, that's
But
beautiful.
religion with them, it wasn't like, yeah, I kind of just learned it along the way. I got my own religion. God made everything. He made me. And who is God? He's just a big ball of energy,
Yeah, yeah.
ball of light. But, everything is made from him. So, when I see the green, beautiful grass, I say, thank you, God.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm just curious because, like obviously we'd all be doing the same praying for our lives. But I was just curious if you had any, like anyone actually explain that to you or show you, or I know you probably were forced to go to church with the Quigleys, but I don't know if
Well,
that
I
was,
even was with the Catholic Church, I was a choir boy when I was very young.
uh-huh.
Um, I was baptized when I was like 2 weeks old, I think, or a week old, something like that, by the Catholic Church. And actually, they made me a choir boy for a little while. I had been basically through, the Baptists, the Pentecostals, the, all of them. I
Yeah.
even sat in with Reverend Jim Jones with the Quigleys once. And the Quigleys, I remember him saying, "This isn't for us." But
Interesting.
I sat in a lot of religions, and truthfully, I don't believe half the bullshit that they share. I always,
Well,
after the sermon was done, they always pass the plate around,
yep.
and so every different church was all the same. It was all about the plate being passed
Yeah.
around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, to me, a church should be have the basket on the table, and if you want to donate, you know where that basket is. You don't need to say, "Hey, put some money in the basket." But
Now they,
like I said, my religion is the creator. We
right.
didn't just happen here. Um, the
Yeah.
anyway, that's my
They,
religion.
they
It's
put
more
their
like an
own
Indian religion.
they put their own rules and agenda into that, and of course it is all about money, power, and control, and funneling the attendees energy, if you will. Like
Yeah.
they funnel that, they whip you into a
And
frenzy, and they take that energy for their nefarious purposes. But
and what I saw growing up with religion, being in the Catholic Church, I was raped as a child. I was 4 or 5 years old, and they were, giving me panda eyes and telling, I would like my butt hurts and they were like, oh, that's just part of it, get over it. I still don't remember who said that, just get over it. That's how it works. Um, but that was in the Catholic Church. And then, the murderers I've seen in these other churches, these cabal members hide there because it's the perfect place to hide for a Satanist. They don't have rules. So they go there on Sunday and smile and say, hey, Jesus is the best thing in the world. And then in the darkness, they're, selling their cocaine and their fentanyl and trafficking children and taking, you know, child porn and making porn movies. And then the next week they're back at church saying, Jesus loves you.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
seen it too many
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
And they'll get somebody to come to the church and they'll say, oh, that person's got a lot of money. We're just going to go give them a big hug. And then maybe next week we'll kill them and steal their money. It's crazy, but that's how it is. That's life. And I've witnessed it. So, it's time people woke up that there's good people and there's bad people. But right now, the bad people are running the show. I would love to make a difference. I would love to see good people run the show and start helping each other. I really
Yeah.
would.
Well, I think there's a new sheriff in town and it's all going to be switching. We're seeing it switch out there in society now. Like a lot of like the child trafficking rings are starting to be broken up. And I mean, it's not perfect yet, but we're starting to see it, which is big because again, propaganda. The mainstream media is the first line where people get their information now, right? And
Mhm.
if they're telling us mistruths or they're not telling us what's really happening, we don't know unless you happen to see it through other channels, right? Reliable places, right? So,
And, I say it's bad, but you know, I try to expose how really bad it is, and people just keep getting brainwashed to the system over and
yeah,
over again.
yeah,
So I hope they go see The Quiet Journey and
yeah,
hear some real truth
yeah,
and quit believing all the lies and the deception. There's so many lies out there. There's so much spin. Oh, your father was alive. Oh, the replacement of me is still alive and he's coming back to run. All this spin, all the bullshit. It's crazy. It's crazy.
yeah,
People are stealing my identity left and right now, and I don't know why. Um, you know, me getting taken off TikTok, where I thought I had a platform with thousands and thousands of people, and them taking me down and leaving all the fake accounts up for people to try to scam people. Why is that being done? Is it just to try to make discredit me
yeah.
over and over and over again? I believe so. I really do.
Well,
And
they're
then
they're they're asking people for money. They're pretending to be you and they're getting donations. So you know, they're using you to get donations. So yeah,
And with that said, like I just said a few minutes ago, I'm not one to pass the plate around. I really not. If you want to help the cause where we can get out, give away books, bumper stickers, and get the truth out any which way we can, I would love to have a billboard on the way to Vegas. I'd love to have a lot of things. I just made a video of my trailer. I need some new stickers for my trailer to help advertise when I do hit the road or do book tours, and it does take a lot, but you all know where the pot is, and I'm not going to pass the pot around because I'm just not that way.
yeah.
I
See,
will I will never say, hey, buy a pendant from me, you know, you know, personal message, email, hey, I need you to buy it. I'm not that way. I will kick rocks before I'm that way. I really will.
okay, yeah. And so we need to point that out. If you get a message that seems like it's from John, it isn't. Okay, unless you've got a legit conversation going. But that's a scammer just trying to get your money. So about 2 to 3 times a week, I get a message that did so and so contact me? And I'm laughing. I'm like, of course not, dude. And they've lost $5,000 or whatever. it happens every week, and I'm sorry for them, but use your noggin. John has one website now where you can buy the products and donate. He's not going out actively pursuing people like that.
And with that said, my website's hindered. I've tried to log on, like if somebody sends me a message,
Yeah.
I can read the message. Um, Bradley sent me a message the other day, I believe. Another person sent me a message, but I can't go in there and reply. I've tried. It just sits there and spins and spins and spins, won't let me apply. So if you really want to message me at my Gmail. That still works. Um, but everything's rough and
Yeah. Yep. Okay, over to the questions then. And I'm sorry, I have a tickle in my throat. What is the status of the wrongful death suit for your mother?
I haven't heard anything. I think Mary Maxwell mentioned the other day. Um, well, I would rather not talk about it right now.
Okay,
Just because it's I can't
okay,
remember if Mary said don't talk about it or
okay.
so I don't want to talk about it and then mess up.
Sorry, someone asked, so I wasn't, I'm just asking the question,
Yeah,
but
I know there's a case number where people could look it up and everything like that, but it was more to try to make news, to try to get the story out.
yeah,
Um, I think she even sent it out for news. I don't know what they call that, where the news
press,
media will pick up the story and share it.
press release.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, that needs to get out because people need to know that's a legit thing and you have to do whatever they need you to do. So don't let that slip through the cracks. So
Yeah, so I better not say anything. And
yeah. All right. So I won't
I just
ask
don't.
about that again. Okay. Switch of topic. Scott Peterson. So
Uh, that's another can of worms. There's so many cans of worms
I
with my
know.
story.
So
So many cans of worms.
I saw that Scott Peterson might be getting another trial because he might be innocent. And what they're saying is the wife might have been abducted before her murder. All right. So my question to you about Scott Peterson is why was this such a high profile case? Like,
Because it
all
was
right.
cabal.
Yeah.
That's plain and simple. It was a cabal deal.
Okay.
And they were all, I mean, the media is controlled,
Yeah.
but that certain story was on CNN, Fox, and it was the same people. They get a whole panel of judges. Oh, this guy is bad. He killed his wife and drowned her. And she was pregnant. But it went on for months.
Yeah.
Every single day they were pushing the Scott Peterson case.
Yeah.
Every single day. And with that said, I'll do the rundown on the Scott Peterson case. I worked for a guy named Ron Fry. Ron Fry's daughter was Scott Peterson's mistress. So I'm in this little community in YLP that's in my book and how it was all controlled and run by the cabal. So I'm working for Ron Fry when his daughter was little. Now, with that said, I knew him. We interacted. He sold me some wheels for my truck one day when I was 20 years old. I'm just guessing. Anyway, I did odd jobs for him for a few years. I did odd jobs for Ron Fry. He would call me up and say, "Hey, I got a brick job. I need your labor work," and I'd say, "Cool." So anyway, that's how I knew Ron Fry and the daughter of Ron Fry that was a mistress of Scott Peterson. So anyway, I was broke. I was hungry. The Quigley said, "Go with your cousins to San Diego." I was talking about Opal May Edwards disappearing and where's her inheritance. She said I'd never have to work again. I'd have so much money. And here I am starving to death. So the Quigley sent me to San Diego to work with my cousins that had a paint shop, auto body shop. And I got there, it was crazy. There was another attempt on my life. one of my cousins, not my cousins, but that's what they said they were, um, took me to a bar. I was poor. I had duct tape on my freaking shoe. I was that poor. I was given hand-me-down clothes wherever I could get them. So the shirt I was wearing was anyway, it had a tag on it. It was like a name brand shirt. But then my shoes was duct tape. So he took me to this bar, and all these guys are playing pool. And they looked at me, and Scott Peterson comes up to me and he said, "What's up with the duct tape on your shoe?" And it's like, "Well, I blew out my shoe. I don't have the money to go buy some new shoes." And he looked at my shirt and he said, "That's out of style. I know it's name brand, but we don't do that anymore. That's out of style." And then the guys there said to me, "Scott Peterson is the next boss." Speaking, he was mafia. They were going to build him up to be a mafia boss. So I knew Ron Fry's daughter. I met Scott Peterson. What a coincidence, whatever you call that. So anyway, I knew them both. Next thing you know, Scott Peterson's killing his wife. Okay, they're building him up to be a mob boss now, right? So you got that here. The next thing you know, he's killing his wife and his baby. Now, was he set up? The cabal put it all over the media to make it look like he was guilty as hell.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did he try to kill me? I don't know that. There was several attempts on my life. After I met Scott Peterson, we went to somebody's house. They weren't home. My cousin took me to this house. We opened a slider. There was a big pool, nice house, big pool in the backyard. And we're sitting there and he keeps looking at his clock. This was just after we met Scott Peterson. He kept looking at his watch and he's like, "Okay, they didn't show up." And I was like, "What do you mean they didn't show up?" And he started talking about them killing me. It's almost like they took me to that house so they could commit murder on me right after I met Scott Peterson. So now I'm thinking, okay, Scott Peterson killed his wife. Was that for me? Was that because he was going to be a mob boss and he didn't want John Kennedy Jr. talking? I don't know. It gets complicated. All I know is I saw Scott Peterson all over the news. And it's like, I know the story. He wanted to be a mob boss and they silenced him. They're good at that. They know what they're doing. They don't care about killing children either. So if his wife was, they don't give a shit. Let's put the motherfucker in prison for the rest of his life. Let's kill his wife and kid too while we're at it. They're ruthless.
Wow. So he's in prison even now. So I think that happened maybe, is it 20 years ago, 30 years ago?
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
But
So
what would he say to me? I don't know, because the scenario is still there that I got introduced to him so he knew who I was so he could kill me. I just don't know. Why was all that done? Why was I introduced to a mob boss
yeah.
and them telling me he's a mob boss and then going to a place where it's a perfect place to kill me?
Yeah.
And then the cousin that took me there was like, "Oh, fuck. Okay. Yeah. You really got to get out of here." And when we were at that house, he kept saying, "It's all about insurance. All about insurance." I still don't know what the fuck he was talking about. People will tell you, but not tell you. The cabal will tell you, but not tell you.
Yeah.
I had to pull my weapon out when I was there in San Diego because somebody wanted to beat me up. I never even met him. Somebody wanted to beat me up with a baseball bat. So I'm grabbing my 38 from behind my back saying, "I don't think you want to do that because I really don't want to kill you." I mean, there was crazy shit like that going on. One night I was there and I slept there and I saw a guy with a gun in his hand walking around trying to open the back door. Just crazy shit, all constant over and over and over again. And yeah, but anyway, that's what I know about the Scott Peterson case. I don't know much more. By what I told people, they should be able to figure it out. There was a Fox News, and my affiliation with Fox News and Sean Hannity. But anyway, I was listening to Fox News. I don't know if it was on the TV or the radio or what it was, but I was listening to Fox News. And Ron Fry came on Fox News, the same guy I used to lay bricks for, and they were talking about his daughter and how she was, Scott Peterson's mistress. And I'm like, I work for that dude. How come they're not asking me any questions? I'm John Kennedy. So anyway, when I was there in San Diego, one of the cousins sold my car. I was walking and I went to their house where my suitcases were, and the whole house was empty. My suitcases were empty. All the furniture was gone. And I'm standing at the front door going, what the fuck just happened? They invited me there to try to kill me, I guess, but I went there and all the shit was gone, all the furniture was gone, and they sold my car. I'm going, this is fucked up. So I'm walking down the street with the duct tape on my shoe still, kicking a can. And when I was kicking that can, I was going, I'm John fucking Kennedy Jr. All these attempts on my life, me having no money in my pocket, me being homeless, kicking a fucking can. What's wrong with this fucking world? So anyway, that's my experience with the Scott Peterson case. That's all I know. I hope it answers people's questions about that. It's huge. With what I just said and the connections with everyone involved. I mean, I tie Scott Peterson and I tie, what's her name? What was her name? Fry, something Fry. Amber Fry. That was her name. Amber. That was Scott Peterson's mistress.
So this points out so many facts. So look at, you're kept in poverty. When you have no money, you can't even protect yourself, really. Like, so we're going to say legally in this case, you can't, like, you've got no authority without money.
Oh, there was something weird happened too. It was crazy. When I was kicking that can, after all that happened, I'm walking down not the freeway, but it was a highway. And I'm walking down the grass on the front. I was headed to a park to go sleep, actually. So I'm walking down the road. I see a cop car doing donuts across the road over there. He's fucking around. Well, it was hot. I was tired, so I stopped. I laid down on the grass. All these fucking cop cars show up. I don't know how many, but there was a bunch of cop cars. They're like, "Where's your buddy? Where's your buddy? Why are you trying to break into this place?" There was a business, down the road a little ways. But all these cops are saying, where's your people you're working with to rob this place?
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I'm just walking down the road and I got tired. I don't need your bullshit. I had a 38 special. Like, I always carried weapons to protect myself. Anyway, they thought I was robbing something. So they handcuffed me. They pat me down. They didn't find my 38. I'm sitting there with handcuffs on going, I could at least kill 2 or 3 of these motherfuckers. I'm that quick. But then the cop that was doing donuts pulled up and he comes over and he said, this ain't the guy. I just saw him 2 miles back walking down the road. So they said, oh, okay. They took the handcuffs off me and I was on my way. But just whatever that was about, I really, really don't know. I don't trust cops. I don't like cops. They're all attitudes. With that said, there's good and there's bad in this world, but we really need to fix the cop situation. I get on Facebook and I see that we are turning into a communist police state. There is video after video after video after video that pop up on Facebook, and everyone is a cop saying, what are you doing here on this public sidewalk? Let me see your identification. That is not legal, but it happens over and over and over again. We are America, people. These people get in a cop uniform. And I've learned that since a very young age that cops can be dirty. Cops can be so evil and dirty and greedy at what they do. We gotta put them all in check. It's not a police state. We have freedoms. We have rights. And I shouldn't be seeing video after video after video of cops. And you can see, at least I can see, the arrogance of them because they have a uniform on over a human being. And there's many. These people actually trying to get it out how bad these cops really are.
Yep.
I've seen it right here in my, I've seen shootings over here. I've seen shootings over here. I've seen one guy call the police. And it wasn't on me. I'm just being me. But the cops would come and ask me questions. They would have an attitude. They really would. And it's like, I don't know nothing. I don't, you know. But then when something important happens, like bullets are flying by my yard, hitting the house next door, then they won't even come
Like,
talk to me.
what? What? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
I watched Bullhead City Police pulled up to a house right here. There was just somebody that opened the door, shot a round off at some people. The people ran away. The bullet hit this house across the street. So anyway, there's an active shooter right across the street from me. All these cops came here. There was two cop cars pulled right in front of the house. Right in front of the house. They got out of the driver's door. They nonchalantly just walked over to their trunk and grabbed their, you know, whatever they had, a little freaking AR or something, whatever it was, police, you know. And then once it was all done, the cops were still sitting in my front yard right here. And I walked over to the one that was in charge and I said, I just want you to know what I saw, what I personally saw. Your officers need more training. Because if it was me, I said I could have killed many people just because they didn't have the training to get out the passenger side, to crunch down, to get behind their vehicle where they were protected. They were, you know, the active shooter was 20 feet away from them, and they're just getting out, standing there nonchalant. And I was like, dude, the shooter just shot a round out the door. He could have blown your police officers away by I was standing there watching them.
Yeah.
They didn't take any action. They were just, oh yeah, whatever. But anyway, he got pissed off at me for telling him they needed more training.
Yep. Isn't that funny?
But then again, I also said, and I'm John Kennedy Jr. I was trained by the secret police.
And they definitely didn't like that, did they?
No. I think one of them was the one I got a ticket from the other day.
Oh my golly. So back to the Scott Peterson story. I just want to finish that up. He was high up in organized crime.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden he wasn't. Okay, so he was like kind of
Oh yeah.
we're
And
gonna
another
say
giveaway is he was caught at the golf course. So yeah, you know these people love playing golf. That's one good giveaway because they're out playing golf. They're on the back 40 where nobody can hear them, so they can do their business of their dirty deeds. It's a
yeah.
perfect place for them to conduct business. Is the golf course?
Oh, okay. So basically, you think he was taken down because he failed at maybe killing you. That would be one theory. Theory. Wow. And so they took you to this house with the pool where they're going to try to kill you, and the guys never showed up.
Yeah.
Wow.
My cousin even said he named somebody. I don't remember who he named, but he said that guy is so ruthless. He said he'll cut your throat while you're sleeping. He's that bad. I don't know what he was talking about, but yeah, there was a lot of talk about death and being killed when it should be, hey, there's a pool, let's go swimming, let's party. But
Yeah.
no, it was
Wow.
they want to kill you. He actually told me that. He said even his father, I called them both cousins, but his father, whether it was his father or not, or they were just making the scenario up, told me he wanted to kill me. And another scenario about them wanting to kill me, I don't know if I've shared this before, but this was in San Diego. It was the same time I met Scott Peterson. He made me he went and bought me a burrito supreme. Here I'm living in poverty. I'm fucking hungry. I am. And I'm working on a car thinking I'm going to get paid, which I never got paid. I worked there for weeks on end thinking I was going to get a paycheck. They kept saying, oh, we don't have the money, blah, 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 keeping me in poverty. So he buys a burrito supreme from Taco Bell. I'm sitting out there standing, and he says, come get your Taco Bell burrito. And I'm standing. This was right after my other cousin said he wanted to kill me. So I said, well, I'm not hungry right now. I really want to get this car finished up, sanding it. So he comes out again. Come get your burrito. I said, okay, I'm almost done. I got there. I went in to his office. It's at the paint shop. He put the burrito in front of me, and I opened up the burrito, and I knew he was pushing me to eat this burrito. And I said, is there some hot sauce on this thing? And he said, what? And I said, well, what I understand, I don't remember exactly what I was fucking around with him. I said, there should be a lot of fucking hot sauce on this motherfucker here, right? He grabbed the burrito that I was basically telling him, you're trying to fucking poison me, right? I said, you should put some hot sauce on this motherfucker because it's steaming. So he grabbed the burrito, he wadded it up in a ball, he threw it against the wall. Burritos of flame went everywhere in his office. And he said, motherfucker, I should have killed my own son. And I just went, what? So, yeah, that's when I exited.
Wow. So I know you said there you had about 3 attempts on your life, and that was one of them. And
Yeah, I was standing out front of the business with my other cousin. And there was a colored guy walking down the street, but he was focused on me standing in front of the business.
yeah.
He was walking across the road that was out front at a diagonal angle, walking straight towards us. And I had just had a few attempts on my life, but I still had my 38 special. And I was like, you see this guy walking towards us? He's coming to kill me. I just feel it. I just know it. So he's walking directly at me like I'm a target.
Right.
My cousin took off his baseball cap and went like this and put it back on his head. The guy saw him do that, turned around, and walked the other direction. After I just told my cousin there's going to be a gunfight right here in the street.
So why do you think your cousin did that? Like he wanted you dead, didn't
Yeah.
he? But why
Well,
did he?
that was when Opal May Edwards disappeared.
Okay.
And that was Opal May Edwards drove an old VW bus. She drove around this old VW bus with thousands of dollars in $100 bills in the glove box. She was a hoarder. She didn't believe in the system.
Okay.
She hoarded, she had a shoebox full of rubber bands. She had a big box full of pencils and she was a hoarder. And she hoarded money. She had lots of money. She told me that she was going to leave me in her will. She always told me she was basically a member of the cabal and owned a lot of things.
Yeah.
Her
Yeah.
husband had recently passed away. He was a bigwig in the mafia. And anyway, she disappeared. She drove an old VW. So I never saw her VW, but a few weeks later, a month later, they had a VW that they just painted all bright colors with they made it into what they call a cow bug, really bright yellow with blue streak coming up and like rainbow, real fancy. And I was like, that couldn't be Opal May's VW that they just painted, could it? And I just went, wow. So yeah, I believe it was all because I knew too much.
Okay. So they wanted to kill you, but why did he stop the murder? I guess was my question. Like
Why did they what?
why did your cousin flap his hat to stop the guy from coming over?
Because I told my cousin I had a gun and there's going to be a
Ah,
gunfight. I told him before while the guy was in the middle of the street walking towards us, I said, there's going to be a shootout right here in the middle of the street. That's what I told my cousin
okay.
while I had my hand on my 38. I said, we're going to have a shootout. I feel it. We're going to. And that's when he didn't want to shoot out. He was letting the guy know, hey, he knows what's coming. I believe that was the
Got it.
scenario.
Okay. So basically these cousins were Quigley cousins, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
they
actually,
were,
they had both been in prison. Maybe they just made up that they were cousins. They found these guys in San Quentin. They just got out. They figured, yeah, we'll let these guys do our killings for us.
wow.
That's how they work.
Wow. Okay.
But
Wow.
they found my cousin that tried to kill me on the side of the road with a heroin overdose.
Ooh.
Yeah, isn't that crazy shame? And that's kind of what happens when people fuck with me. They end up dead somewhere.
Yeah. Well, you got people fighting all around you and you've managed to walk through unscathed pretty much.
I
Even
thank God for that.
the
And
emotional emotional and physical trauma has taken its toll, but you're here.
Yeah. And God talks to me. He really does. It's like God helps me along my journey to keep me alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
I used to love to ride dirt bikes. And this is a good example. I'm riding my dirt bike and I love to go fast. I really like, you know, I wanted to be Evil Knievel. I met Evil Knievel. I wanted to be the Evil Knievel. I was always trying to jump a barbed wire fence or jump something on my dirt bike. But anyway, I was on a back dirt road. This back dirt road went to a lake where a lot of people went fishing, but people rode motorbikes and stuff there. So anyway, I'm riding my dirt bike and I'm having fun. Something told me, you got to slow down. Something's going to happen. You got to fucking slow down now. So I slowed way the fuck down. And next thing I know, there's three motorcycles coming right at me. I hit one of them. This guy was probably going 60 miles an hour. And we hit head on. He pushed my front tire into my motor. We hit that hard. I flew over the handlebars. He flew over his handlebars. And I had a full face helmet on for protection. My full face, I hit the ground so hard it broke the full face. It just broke right off. I hit that hard. And to the left of me, there was a cliff with a 30-foot drop off onto rocks. And it was that close that I could have lost my life. But something told me, slow down. So if I didn't slow down, I would have went off that cliff because I would have flown that much further over the handlebars. But it was just that little, God says, slow down.
Yeah.
It's time you slow down right now. And I did. And then boom, it happened. So it's just really weird. But I've always thought of that. I always have.
Yeah.
Because that's a good way to share my story. And
Yeah.
hey, God will tell you, do this or do that. And hey, I slowed the fuck down. I was listening to God that day.
Yeah. And you saw the result of listening, right? That's so amazing. You know you're being protected. I mean, you're fulfilling your mission. You've gone through a lot of hardship, but you've witnessed a lot of things and you're fulfilling what you were here to do. So you have to be extremely strong to go through all of this emotionally, physically. Like you've got to be smart, a lot of street smarts, and
Yeah, what one thing that these people do though, I mean, I got so many stories. They put me under MK Ultra. This was after that accident. And they took me back to that cliff with the 30-foot drop off onto rocks. And I was standing there and we were talking, and one of them runs up and pushed me off of that cliff.
what?
Yeah. So I actually fell the 30 feet and I was all fucked up. I was laying there out of breath because I just hit a bunch of rocks. But it was like, that's the kind of shit they do. And I was like, what the fuck? It was crazy. But I'm sore. I really am. My body's been battered and bruised and tortured. But yeah, I guess they didn't succeed at what they were trying to do that day. But anyway, maybe I told my story, to somebody. Hey, I could have fell off that cliff. So they got together and said, "Hey, let's really push him off that cliff." I don't know,
Ah,
but that's how they work. That's how they work.
so they just randomly pushed you off, and you, by magic, it was a miracle. You did hit rocks, but you didn't hit your head on a rock, or you know.
Yeah, I was messed up from the fall, but I've fallen off roofs and had bundles of shingles that hit me after I've been down on the roof.
Ooh, yeah,
But yeah, it's just crazy. It's crazy.
it's
But I
crazy.
remember who did it. Um, I remember the guys that did it, and some of them have died some really terrible deaths.
Yeah.
They really have.
Well,
Just like the guy that messed with my brakes back then on my motorbike. He ended up joining the military, and then somebody, or I should say, he fell out of a helicopter to his death. Um, you know, it's just strange how this secret war or God's war or that works. But people don't usually end up good if they want to harm me for no reason, just
yeah,
because who I am and what I know.
yeah. It's instant karma, right?
I call it the magic mojo.
Yeah.
I do. I call it the magic. Hey, if somebody wants to harm you, just hey, let the karma go back on them, and it usually does.
Wow, okay. Wow, I mean, I haven't heard that Cliff story. That's crazy.
Yeah, I should take. Yeah, I mean, it ain't going nowhere. That clip's always going to be there. So
Yeah,
someday maybe I'll go back and take pictures of it.
yeah. Wow. Okay. Let's squeeze in one last question before we go.
I could even Google Earth it and
Google
get
Earth.
and yeah,
Yeah.
and then I could
Yeah.
take a picture and we'll share that the next time we have an interview. How's
That
that?
would be very interesting to see. Yeah. Okay. Are you aware of or have you ever been taken to unknown lands such as Terramar, which is beyond the ice wall? That was a question we received. So no.
No, I've seen a lot of places. Well, I have been under MK Ultra, and I've seen a lot of tunnels, the child trafficking, um, and that kind of thing, and some of the terrible deeds they do to children. I was victim, myself. But yeah, I was even shown a couple aliens once. I believe it might have been Area 51, but I didn't believe it. I saw these green things in like coffins, but you could see them. I wasn't allowed to touch them, but I had the attitude like this is all bullshit Hollywood shit.
Yeah, okay. Well, just wanted to answer the question. And it is interesting because I think Antarctica, like we're starting to see video about the ice ring and what's out behind that, other cities and other beings. So it's going to
Right.
be interesting when that's all revealed. But
I have a hard enough time just getting to the East Coast to share my story, let alone go somewhere, and by the time I get there, I'd be frozen popsicle. So
yep, yep. Okay. Anything else you want to say today?
I just want to say thanks for everybody that's making videos, sharing my story, doing the research. I've shared, people didn't believe that I was in the military as a child. So pictures are coming out. People are doing videos. I'm sharing more of my story from back then, me with the Hells Angels and Sonny, and the Black Horse saving my life after John Walton and the crew there. And I saw another picture of John Walton's team, and I remembered the guy that was there that was the tunnel rat teaching me how to be a tunnel rat. And if you're not familiar with what a tunnel rat is in Vietnam, the Vietnamese dug tunnels. That's how they stayed alive. They would build rooms in these tunnels. They would hide in these tunnels. Some were big, some were small,
Right.
but it was like a web of tunnels under the ground. And that's how they survived the bombing. And that's how they could pop up in the middle of the night and kill people.
Right.
And one of my jobs as a little kid was grab a flashlight and my knife and go down and tell if I saw anything. Um, but he taught me, I was there and he would tell me what to do and how to do it. And he showed up drunk one time and they wanted to kill him. They wanted to kill him because his job was that important. And I went in one tunnel and there was a woman and a child in a room in that tunnel. And I shined my flashlight. I was poking my little knife. I was scared. I turned around and came back and they asked me, is the enemy in there? And I said, no, it's just a woman and a child. Well, they threw a grenade in there anyway, and they blew up that woman and child and the tunnel. But they knew the enemy wasn't in that sector by what I told them. So the enemy had traveled to a different location. And I think me giving him that information saved a lot of lives that day. I do, because it let them know that the enemy wasn't there, that they had moved on to another place. But yeah, I remember the guy, what he looked like with his mustache, a little shorter guy, red hair. He's probably Irish. I don't know, but my story's getting out more and more, um, which is good.
Yes, yes. So we always say the same thing, share the story, watch the video, thequietjourney.tv, and share the books and all of that. The website is the real John F. Kennedy Jr.com. All right. So there is a donate tab and then there's also a shop tab. So you can purchase basically the pendant. And at the bottom of that page, you can purchase the t-shirts there. I didn't mention that last week. So
Yeah,
that's
and I don't have anything to do with the t-shirts.
Right.
If you do purchase a pennant, you might get a book, you might get a T-shirt, you might get some
Yep.
bumper stickers,
Yeah.
whatever I got at the time.
Yep.
I'm running out of stolen identity. I wanted to order some last month. That didn't happen. Somebody sent me 3 books of the stolen identity the other day. I think I already gave one away, but
Yeah.
I got some more stuff to give away. But people, please hit me up. I've got a lot of bumper stickers to get the truth out to the world, and that's my mission. It's worth more than life itself that I get this out right here to the world, so we can change the world to all the better,
Right.
and not where it's going to keep getting worse.
So if you want some of these little bumper stickers, John's address is in the description below. Send a self-addressed stamped envelope to John and he'll send you a bunch. It needs 2 stamps, right? Minimally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the more stamps, the more stickers I'll put on there.
Right, right. So that way you can put the bumper sticker all over, and then people will say, "Hey, what's this?" and actually watch it. And
I'm actually hooked up to my trailer with all the John Kennedy stickers, stolen identity stickers all
yeah,
over the trailer.
yeah,
I was thinking about going to Walmart and standing there, hand out stickers.
yeah,
I
yeah.
want my story out, like I said, more than life itself. And I got all these stickers. Might as well get them out to the world.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so thank you to those that are viewing right now, and thank you to all of those that are helping in some way. We appreciate you getting the story out there. Like everyone pitching in their way is so helpful.
It's beautiful. It
Yeah,
is so beautiful. Just like
yeah.
this, it's
That's
it's
really
going to
good.
happen, and the gifts are amazing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna have a healing center, the John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr. Healing Center, and all these wonderful gifts will be on display. All the memorabilia, and there's so much. They when they killed my father, they got to work and they literally made millions and millions of dollars selling Kennedy memorabilia.
right,
And I want to share some of that and
right.
some some of the truth
Yeah,
in that place, and maybe we can get help a lot of people, get people to stop and learn the truth.
right.
So it's all good. It's a win-win.
It's going to
But
happen.
thank you all you lions, all you people, the people that helped keep me alive my whole life, the Hell's Angels, the Black Horse, and the Green Berets. Um, God bless them. God bless them. Some
Yeah,
of them didn't come back alive, and I got to live with that. But life goes on.
yeah. Well, I'm glad you're here. Like I said, strength, courage, and intelligence on how, you have that sense of when danger is coming and you were able to skirt it. So here you are, and that allows you to do the mission, which is going to allow other people to do what they need to do. So very important stuff here. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much, Sue.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
I can't wait.
All right.